Maybe just you might as well just address the elephant in the room. So let's just talk about AI skepticism
Sure.
and really what sort of perspectives can you share on that or around AI skepticism and again
Yeah.
sort of drilling down on that and just touching on those points.
Yeah, totally. I think, having a healthy skepticism is generally speaking a good thing. Um, and as it relates to AI, there's definitely healthy skepticism out there in the marketplace. And I would say, the AI vendors and the vendors we use every day haven't really helped themselves because, as you mentioned, there's a lot of hype that's there in the media. There's been this push to try and integrate AI into everything, whether it needs to be there or not. So that's created this environment where, every day you wake up, there's AI is going to change how we live, how we work, how we do everything. But when people are actually, interacting with the tools themselves, they're not seeing the value that's being spoken about. And so there's a lot of skepticism that builds up because of that. And so there was a recent study done by MIT that claimed 95% of AI investment in AI trials generated zero return or zero value.
Hmm.
And a lot of that actually comes from the fact that, yeah, there is all of this hype, but there isn't a lot of direction when exploring, and there isn't a lot of doing what we were just talking about, understanding the tools even at a kind of a high level and trying to apply them where they make the most sense. A lot of people are trying to just use AI for AI's sake, and the chances of success when taking that approach generally are much lower than if you were to say, hey, here's the strength of this AI tool. I have a particular use case that this would be a good fit. Let's start to explore there and see how we can kind of implement this on a solid go forward basis.
Right. So you're sort of seeing a lot of the skepticism as a result of a little bit of the silliness, but also just
Yeah.
be the gap between understanding and application and
Yeah.
and such. And really, I mean, would you also say that perhaps this is relates to Amara's law, which says, look, like tech is always you're always gonna get you always overestimate the impact in the short term, but you underestimate the impact in the long term. Would you say that also has some that idea might have some application here?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I think because, that's 100% right. Where, when you talk to vendors, when you see things in the news, there's this assumption that it's just going to be very easy to implement. Excuse me, but the reality is kind of far from the truth. So in order to have success, with any type of technology adoption, you need several things to go on. You need people to want to be able to adopt this technology. They have to understand it. So there's a certain level of training required. There also has to be support on an ongoing basis. And a lot of times, early on, when trying to adopt things like AI, that isn't there. There's this assumption that it's going to be easier than it actually is for the various reasons just discussed. So the early adoption doesn't go as well as people hope for. But as these tools stick around and people get more comfortable with them, it starts to unlock more longer term value because people get familiar with best practices and really being able to figure out, okay, this tool is going to be great for this job. So the longer term value starts to kind of pick up. But there's definitely that gap where there's kind of expectations versus reality. And that definitely leads to disappointment and skepticism early on.